Hi and welcome to my YouTube channel. My name is Maor and this channel is dedicated for those seeking spiritual development. The irrational thoughts are actually responsible for almost all negativity we have in our life. The problem is that we're so programmed with them that we can't really distinguish between the irrational and the rational. Now, most of my following are very mental people, meaning you want to logically, scientifically understand. So what we're going to go through is I'm going to explain to you the 10 different irrational thoughts or thinking patterns, and you can recognize your own thinking patterns in them. Now, the magic occurs when you become more aware and you start practicing. For example, number 8 is I need. When I say the words I need to have a diet, I need to be more attentive. When you say that, you create some sort of stress in your life. I can say that I need is something that I sin with all the time. And let's begin. Now, the purpose of this video is to make ourselves more aware and practice seeing these limiting thoughts as they occur, and with time to completely avoid them, as they only add stress and never a practical solution to the issue at hand. Now, for me, rational thinking is something that sounds normal, and irrational thinking simply sounds like somebody might be a little bit off or even go towards insane. But apparently, this is not the case. There are numerous scientific studies that have been done on our irrational thinking and the cause of some of our most basic misconceptions that create any negativity we have. Now, the ones I'm going to teach you today are the most common ones, and they cover about 95% of all irrational thinking cases. Once you recognize the irrational thought, it will be very easy for you to see it more clearly from now on. So let's get started. I'm going to give you an example for each one, and I hope the example itself will clarify it. Of course, what I teach here is a template, and you will need to practice observing this template in your own life and in life of others close to you. Number 1, thoughts of all or nothing, black or white. That happens when we think about something as black or white without the different shades of gray. That means that we have a tendency to measure it with an arbitrary scale and sometimes eccentrically. For example, I have failed my test and therefore I am a failure and will never succeed in anything else. Another example is you are either with us or against us. Again, black or white, making something absolute. Another example is right after a breakup or getting fired or losing your job or losing someone that is close to you, when we think that life simply cannot go on. And then again, black or white. All of those are irrational thoughts that are caused by thoughts of all or nothing. Absolute thinking, 3D thinking. Now, can you begin recognizing this pattern in your own life? Were you ever afraid of being late to an important meeting, for example? And then you thought, oh, the shit is going to hit the fan, everything is going to be bad for me. Number 2, exaggerated generalizations. Now, when something bad happens to you and you decide that from this day forward, this thing is going to happen to you over and over and over again. For example, if you are a very shy guy and you get the courage to go and ask some girl out and she refuses for some reason, and you reach the conclusion that no woman will ever be interested in you. If you tried cooking something one time and burned it, and from then on you decided you can't even try. If you have ever tried a diet and failed and decided that diets are simply not for you. Take any negative outcome to any circumstance you might have had in your life and see how you've generalized that outcome and it is now actually steering your life. Number 3, mental filter. When something bad happens to you, even if it's mildly bad, and you focus on it so much and think about it so much until you become despaired. Like when someone criticizes about something you did wrong at work and you can't do anything that day except to rerun that criticism in your mind. This is called the mental filter. Can you recognize this type of irrational thinking in your life? I'm sure you can find plenty of other examples in your own life. Ever get stuck on something like that for more than just a few minutes and retroactively understood that it wasn't such a big deal after all? Number 4, rejection of the positive. The ability to make a neutral experience or even a positive experience into a negative one is one of the mind's wonderful wizardry. This is a type of reversed alchemy that turns even gold into trash. For example, the way we react towards compliments. Try to remember a few times in your life when someone has complimented your appearance, complimented your work, and you thought to yourself they just have a hidden agenda and you didn't really believe them. Now, the rejection of the positive is one of the most obstructive thought mistakes there could ever be. We pay a heavy price for having this type of irrational thinking by being miserable and having mental disability or not even being able to appreciate the beautiful things that happen in our life. It is our tendency to see the negative in the positive. Number 5, jumping to wrong conclusions. Now, you probably think you already know this one because everyone occasionally is presumptuous and everybody makes mistakes or wrong assumptions. But this is not about the assumptions. This is about jumping into wrong conclusions. Now, not once we act like we can read other people's minds. We hurry to jump to a negative conclusion that is simply unjustified and unscientific. For example, we assume that someone despises us and we are so convinced of it that we never even bother to check the facts again. Another example can be that our partner is just angry for some reason, we have no idea why, and we ask ourselves, oh shit, what have I done? But in all honesty, all they had was a really, really bad day at work. And again, we made a mistake assuming instead of checking the actual facts. We hear a sound outside, we think it's a robber. We see our partner chatting with someone on Facebook, and we think that they're cheating. We see who is calling us, and we think we already know what they're going to talk about and how long the conversation is probably going to be. We jump to wrong conclusions all the time, instead of really just checking the facts. This can, again, lead to irrational thoughts. Simply stick to the facts and make sure that you know the real facts and not the ones that you have been biased by your mind or by your ego to think. Number 6, loss of proportion. Now, the boost itself of the loss of proportion happens when you think about a mistake, any disadvantage or a fear you might have, and you boost its energy significantly. Now, this is like looking at it with a serious magnifying glass. Oh shit, I've made a mistake and now everyone is going to hear about it. What a shame, my good reputation is going to be ruined forever. And yet, for all the positive experiences and the achievements, you insist on looking at them through a shrinking glass. So the combination of minimizing the positive and magnifying the negative can reassure depression and moodiness. Now think about the times in your life that you had loss of proportion of anything. Think about any argument you might have had with someone retroactively. Was it really worth it? Or did one side just lose proportions? And also consider that in that point in time, our ego might convince us that the thing is much bigger than it really is. And that also creates the loss of proportion. And yet, when you see with clear eyes and become more aware of irrational thinking patterns, you outgrow loss of proportions and you lose the drama that comes with it. Number 7, emotional thinking. Now, this is not to be taken literally, as our emotions and intuition have nothing to do with this type of irrational thinking. Emotional thinking, irrational thinking pattern, is when we take our emotions as proof of our reality. Sometimes our emotions create the hole where we bury ourselves and conceive an emotional trap where we actually believe something that simply is not true. Number 8, need. This happens to me personally more than I'd like to admit. The sensation of a need. I need to get more subscribers on my YouTube channel. I need to get a bonus this year or I'll lose it. At times, we try to stimulate ourselves to action by having an inner guidance of needing. For example, I need to have a diet or I need to be more active in my life. More than once, these type of inner guidances make us feel more stressed and disgruntled much more than they make us cheerfully move forward with them. They actually contract us into indifference and helplessness. Now, feeling a need is very common. Learn to distinguish between an actual need to one that will simply add stress and irrational thoughts of unnecessary anguish into your life. Number 9, attaching a negative label to ourselves and to others. This is a more extreme manifestation of what we call exaggerated generalization. Its essence is that the person creates a negative image for himself or herself because of mistakes that they might have done. Now, it could be only one mistake. For example, those that do this may believe that a person that has made a mistake is a very problematic person and tend to judge people by one single action they might have done. And of course, we cannot judge someone by only having one simple mistake to go with. Number 10, self-attribution. In this case, we assume personal responsibility for things that happen. This is the mother of guilt. We take on the burden of negative things even though there is no actual reason or evidence for that. We easily conclude that we might have done something to cause this scenario or not done something to prevent it, while in fact the truth is far from it. We had absolutely nothing to do with it, and obviously there was nothing we could have done to prevent it. This type of irrational thought is common amongst parenting, close relationships where something happened to one person and the other person irrationally thinks that they should have done something to prevent it or could have done something. So to conclude, we just went through 10 different categories of irrational thinking that we sin with every day. And if you think that you don't, just check again and rewind the video. I want to thank you for choosing to see this video. If you feel that you have learned anything interesting, please like it or even better, share it. You may find more of my stuff on my website, raymaor.com. Namaste.